Hello and welcome to the Future is Bilingual podcast. My name is Heather. We are officially in the new year in 2021, so I want to wish everybody a very healthy and happy new year, and I hope you're not too tired from staying up late last night. New Year is a time of hope and wishes and often resolutions and things that we want to improve upon, and I love this time of year. I love making resolutions, so I'm not immune to that. This episode is also an episode about hope and what we want for the future. And I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to give away what their story is about, but I'm interviewing two people today who are dear friends of mine, Carly and Michał, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Welcome, Carly and Michał.
Thanks, Heather. We're happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So why don't you introduce yourselves?
So my name is Carly. I'm 29, here with my husband. We're expecting our first child in February. I'm about 30 weeks pregnant right now.
My name is Michael, 32 years old, married to Carly, 3 years now.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And do you want to say what you guys do?
I'm a domestic violence counselor and legal advocate at our local courthouse.
And then I'm an electrical engineer, currently in these times working fully remote at home, and then hopefully in the future 50% remote. So we look forward to that, to being able to be home with our child in the future. Mm-hmm. We also moved on to a 4-day work week, so Monday through Thursday. So every Friday we're going to have off. I mean, I do have to work 10-hour days, and then we should be 50% remote. So I'll be going in a couple of days and being home a couple of days, but expecting like a first child that we think it's going to be useful.
I think it'll be great.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be super helpful. In this country, most fathers don't get any paternity leave, or they have to use their vacation time. So that's really great that you'll be home at least part-time during the week. There's just a lot to get used to when that first baby comes. Do you want to tell us how you guys met?
We met on a dating app, actually.
Oh.
Michael had a really short, sweet bio. It only said Cześć, and I had no idea what that meant. So I had never seen accents like that before, even on letters.
Oh, this is so appropriate. I didn't actually know how you guys met. So this is very appropriate for our conversation.
So one of our first conversations actually was about the fact that Michael's Polish. And
So tell us what Cześć means, because people listening might not know.
Well, Cześć means hello, hi. And in Polish, actually, people use Cześć as kind of like a goodbye as well. Like you could say Cześć, like walk.
Ciao.
Yeah, like ciao.
Like ciao.
No, yeah, exactly. Ciao is probably a perfect example of it. You could greet somebody and say goodbye to somebody.
Yeah, I believe Hebrew, the word shalom, works the same way. So it's interesting that languages have that flexibility. English, we do not allow that, and it worked, right? It got you the girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know Michał speaks Polish and obviously English. Do you guys want to tell us more about the languages that you speak?
I'm not bilingual in any way. I only know really English, but I do know some Spanish just from taking it in school. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning Polish as well.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely really good in Spanish, because when we took a vacation to Spain, she was pretty much our main translator. Maui, our mutual friend, also helped with Spanish, and so did our friend Chris. He might have annoyed some people in Spain, but we did have pretty much went throughout Spain with Carly's and Marcin's help there.
Mm-hmm. Hi guys, I just wanted to quick jump in and let you know that this mutual friend that Michał is referring to is my co-host, Marcin, also known as Martin, and in our friend group he's known as Maui. So you'll hear him referred to by those different names, but it is in fact my co-host. Well, if you can travel, I mean, people define being bilingual differently. So it's your own personal decision if you think you're bilingual. But if you're able to travel, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
And Michał, any other languages under your belt?
No, for me, it's a Polish native language, just from being born there up to 7 years old, then came to the U.S. To be taught English. I didn't really, well, I guess if I go forward, I didn't really get any English learning or teaching before I left Poland. So kind of a spur of the moment when my parents moved over to the U.S. So basically all my English was taught in first grade. So
Wow.
I started first grade with no English. So
With an ESL
Wow.
teacher.
with an ESL teacher,
Wow.
yeah, knowing 0 words, but I do remember like me and my sister being very, very quick at learning it, and very like just easily like learning like all these words, coming home and saying like the funniest things were we would come home and we would like kind of complain to our parents, saying, "Hey, remember when you told us the word for closet?"
Uh-huh.
In Polish, it's like shafa. So it's like really hard like words for like Polish kids to learn, like shafa, like the sounds. And then it's like, hey, why is it in English closet? It's so much easier.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny because when my son was, you guys know my son Adrian, he was in daycare and with my mom, and all his first words were English, pretty much ball, book. And I was so nervous he would never be able to say piłka, książka. I was like, he's never
Yes.
Polish, but he does. But yeah, those are the sounds of Polish are definitely hard to say. And we have some books that have like tips at the bottom for parents, like at age 3, your kid can say these sounds, at age 4, at age 5. And yeah, so it'll like tell you what age they can actually correctly pronounce like DZ together, or like Z with a dot on it, or, yeah, Polish is interesting. Michael, you learned English just because you had to. But you did have
Yes.
your sister and you guys are close in age. So that probably helped a lot because you each were in the same situation. So like she could help you understand. She knew exactly where you were coming from and what you were going through.
Exactly. It was definitely the same exact situation. We both didn't know a word, and then everything that if I learned something, I would tell her. If she learned something, she'd tell me, and then it got to a point that me and her spoke English to each other. That my parents would actually like yell at us saying, "No, speak in Polish," because like we'd be in the back seat just like speaking English.
Yep.
And it wasn't even to like hide anything. It was just like, I guess your kids, it's something new, and you learn it in school, and you just want to use it.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to practice what you've been learning, and she's like a safe practice partner. So I can totally see that. And that just happens. I think that happens with most kids of immigrants that are, bilingual. They are, a lot of them drift towards the majority language just because most people speak it. It seems more useful. Michał, how did you keep up your Polish then? Because you came here so young. Did you have school, like any schooling in Poland?
In Poland, I went to kindergarten, so not like huge schooling, right? I actually went to kindergarten twice because when my sister went off to school, when it was her turn to go to kindergarten, I pretty much couldn't stay home by myself because like me and my sister are so close in age, so we grew up together. So when she went to school, I just got really sick and just couldn't stay home by myself. So my parents had to like pretty much bribe the school teachers with like farm eggs and like just stuff to say, could you just let him go to school with his sister? So we actually went to kindergarten twice. Well, we went to kindergarten together for the first time, and then when it was my turn to go to kindergarten, I repeated it, the grade again. So I was in kindergarten twice in Poland.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty funny. I always say it's my love for education.
Yes.
That's why I really wanted to go early.
Dedication.
Exactly.
So I didn't say this yet, but Carly and Michał are good friends of mine. And I love that we're only a few minutes into our discussion and I'm learning so much about both of you. Just things we don't normally talk about when we're hanging out. So this is great.
No, that's very true.
Good stories come out of this.
Yeah, there's just so many stories that we never have the chance to tell each other. So I love it. So yeah, tell us, how did you keep your Polish?
So I went to kindergarten, then we came to the US. I went straight into first grade. Always spoken Polish at home. We had an aunt that lived in the same apartment building, so she spoke in Polish as well. So my parents were very close to my aunt, so me always spoken there. Radio, like my parents, even from the beginning, they like radio, TV, always like Polish channels. So we would still get exposure to that. I believe like we also went to some Polish classes when we were like pretty young. I think it was part of like the church like St. Stan's had some Polish classes. So we took like CCD classes and they had some Polish classes. It was mostly just spoken at home. My parents also really wanted us, to retain it. So that's why I go back to saying like we would get yelled at, well, scolded, I guess, when we were like in the back seat. But they would send us to Poland as much as they could. So I do remember, I think maybe, and this was like, my parents would send only me and my sister. They would just put me and my sister on a plane.
What?
Just me and my sister on a plane. We're like, I feel like we were either in like end of like maybe 5th grade or 6th grade. Like we were really small kids, right? They would just put us on a plane, send us to Poland for the whole summer.
Wow. See, I never knew that.
Yep. So the attendant would just like, say like, okay, we're gonna like look after them. And then on the other side, like my aunt or grandmother would come pick us up and we would just stay in Poland for like the whole summer. I think we did that twice.
Wow.
So it was like a couple months. And it was always nice to go back because I know like by middle school, I felt like by middle school time frame, I started like losing my Polish because like me and my sister had spoken in English all the time. And then I felt like I was losing it a little bit. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure so much of your day was, schooling was English, friends were English, like everything was happening except for, the hours you're at home, but it's not that much once you're in school. You're sleeping a lot of it. So yeah. So trips back. That's great.
Yeah, and then I think the trips kind of like brought me back in. Like you go to, you feel like you lose the Polish, and then like you take a trip to Poland. Maybe in the beginning, your grammar and like wording is kind of off, and then you kind of reset. And you kind of like spend a week or two there, and you just reset into knowing it pretty well.
It's amazing how that can happen. How like you can kind of get weak and get rusty, and then all of a sudden it's just you're like clean, you're ready to go. It just sets in your brain like, oh yeah, this thing. Like you just kind of got out of practice or something.
Yep.
And especially with first languages, they say it's if you've learned it up until like adolescence, it's hard to lose it. Versus just a language. Like I studied Spanish at high school, but I could forget that easily.
You don't have to tell me I forgot my Spanish language from high school.
There we go. We've all been there. So let's get into the baby because that's what we're all here to talk about. It's so exciting. And I want to ask Carly first as the mom, what are your goals? What are your dreams? Like in the ideal world, what languages would you want this baby to grow up hearing and speaking? Trips, just kind of imagine.
So we would really like this baby and all our children, hopefully if we have more than one, to know Polish. But definitely we want them to know Polish and English. And I would also like to teach them Spanish and maybe some Portuguese as well, just to kind of bring my background into it a little bit. So yeah.
So tell us about your Portuguese background.
So my father is from Portugal, like basically everyone on my dad's side of the family is an immigrant, and they speak Portuguese as their first language. So growing up, it's not like I spoke Portuguese at home at all. It was more so the language during like family gatherings or holidays or trips or things like that. So really I was just kind of like a passive like listener to Portuguese. I never really like spoke it too much.
But you had exposure.
I had exposure to it. It really helped me with my Spanish when I started taking like Spanish lessons formally at school. I think.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure your ear was trained without you even
and I think,
realizing.
like, even my tongue too, in a way, like it felt like a natural way to speak. So yeah, so that's why I'm also excited to bring in like a Romance language, in addition to the Slavic language that we'll be able to get, really well because Michael's fluent.
And I think it's great because there's so many Spanish speakers and even Portuguese speakers in our area that, and they're closely related. So, having at least knowledge of one is going to help with the other.
Yeah, definitely.
Does your family still speak any Portuguese? Like if they all get together?
Yeah, my aunts, uncles, cousins, they all speak it. So, I can ask them if they would just speak to my baby in Portuguese. Yeah. They'll be able to teach them way more than I could.
Oh my gosh, yes. 1 week.
A great way to introduce them. And we actually plan on going to Portugal, hopefully, and visiting family there. So I always just remember that, those visits for me being so exciting because I loved being exposed to a different language when I was a little kid.
And how often did you get to go over to Portugal?
When I was young, I probably went 3-4 times on family trips there.
That's great. I've always wanted to visit. It's such a beautiful part of Europe. So definitely Polish, Spanish or Portuguese. And I mean, English will come. I don't think you guys have to worry about that. And we've already talked about family nearby. And unfortunately with COVID, it's definitely harder. But who knows what will happen with the vaccine. But if you can get some family to babysit even once a week, that could be an amazing support for Portuguese.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty sure that Carly's parents and like my parents are very willing to come down to visit, especially Carly's parents being their first grandchild, and then my parents is their second grandchild, but it's like a girl rather than a boy. So they're pretty excited as well.
Yeah, no. Even if it was the 10th, I'm sure they'd be running
exactly,
over. Yeah. There's nothing like a little baby.
Yeah.
So Carly, tell us more about learning Polish, because you and I are in the same boat.
Yeah,
in a way.
Just at different levels. I've only been studying Polish for like a year and a half. I kind of started by using an Osborne picture book, like the Osborne series. They make those great books where it's just like big drawings of scenes like farm scene, park scene, kitchen scene, and all of the drawings are labeled.
Yes, we have it in French and Polish in our house for our kids.
Yeah, I really love that book. So that was like the first thing I bought when we were dating, just to, we would just go through that book all the time. So I could pick up some vocabulary, and I would always ask Michael how to pronounce things.
That's a great way to start, though, because you can't really make
it really fun.
Yeah, I feel like you can't make a sentence if you don't have the vocab, and you can get really bogged down with grammar, especially Polish grammar. So I think it's good that you just focusing on the vocab, getting the sounds of the language, all that. That's a great way to start.
Totally. And now I'm really lucky because I found a organization that's somewhat local to me. Luckily, Connecticut is a pretty small state, so it's not too bad to get up to New Britain, where there's a really large Polish immigrant community, and the Polish American Foundation there offers Polish classes. So I've already taken a few sessions of it, and I'm starting up again in February for an online session.
Very nice. With the baby sleeping in your lap, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. And Michał, Michael, do you have any plans for how to help Carly. If you're speaking, are you planning to speak like 100% in Polish to the baby? So let's imagine the baby is here. If she doesn't understand, what's your plan for that?
Yes. So we talked about it. So we'd like to primarily focus on like the one parent, one language method, and that would be more through reading books, speaking to her, reading books in Polish to her, teaching her the basic like numbers, body parts, animals,
things around the house.
things around the house. So when we take walks, pointing out scenery. And just like consistency of just keeping up Polish, in her mind and everything. I definitely have to brush up on things and learn some like Polish nursery rhymes and stuff like that to be able to say stuff like that. But I am also like lucky because my sister Paulina had her baby, so we brought back a lot of Polish book for Alex. So now since he won't need the baby books, they're gonna come to our house with the baby books. So we'll have plenty of baby book material in Polish. And I mean, the plan could be to use just like if we have English books.
Yeah.
Carly
Well, that was an idea I actually learned from Heather.
Oh yeah. What?
Yeah, I heard it in your podcast. Like, you don't have to really worry so much about what language the book is written in because your child can't read yet.
No.
So you can just go through and explain what's happening in the pictures in whatever language you want and tell them the story.
Yep, that's so true. And only recently, my son Adrian, I was trying to read him something in French just to like see, and he was like, no, Polish. I'm like, oh, okay. But now he's getting too smart for me. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, for a long time you can get away with it. And he can't read. He just wanted me to read it in Polish. So they just start getting their opinions, but that's a whole nother. But no, I think that's really great that, just using it, because that's really, languages are most of the time we're speaking and listening. We don't write that often unless it's part of our job or school. And you're going to have plenty of time before she enters school. So
yeah, exactly. If she can understand, say words and then see the words spelled out. And I think very important, once she would learn like a Polish alphabet and everything, Polish is, I guess the good part of it is once you know your letters, you can sound out the words. And it's not like English where, letters make different sounds, but they don't make sense.
Not at all. Yeah. English is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of rules in English and everything. So actually for like, Polish people that immigrated here, for like my parents, English is pretty hard because of those rules. Like if you don't, you really need to know those rules. But in Poland, like if you know the sounds that Polish like words and like letters make, you could pretty much sound out what you need to say and like what you need to read.
Yeah, so similar to Spanish. I don't know about Portuguese, but I know Spanish is phonetic, Polish is phonetic. So you read exactly what's written. English is so not phonetic. There's so many exceptions. Like the word hour is spelt the same as 4, the number, and hour like time, but they're spelt the same, but they don't sound the same. So how do you explain that?
Good example.
Yeah, it's the one I always fall back on, but I'm not going to pronounce how it would be otherwise because it's not appropriate. But you can do that on your own. Pause the recording and try and pronounce them the same way. But yeah, I think it's great. And I think, Carly, I've heard a lot of examples, and you can probably look some up as well, of parents that didn't speak a language, and you already have a good basis in Polish, but didn't speak it and heard their partner speaking the language and picked it up with the kid, because it is a little baby. They're going to learn so slowly. They're not even going to speak for like at least a year.
I know. I think I'm really excited about that aspect of it. Learning along with her, picking up those basics, those simple phrases.
Yep.
It's just going to be so helpful to me. So yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to help me on my language journey, I think, immensely. Because Michael doesn't use, I don't know, baby talk or just really simple little phrases all the time with me, even though sometimes I'm like, that's what I need you to do.
Yes.
It doesn't feel natural. But when we have our little one here, it will be more natural and I can absorb that.
I know it would be nice if they could just talk to us like, "Are you hungry? Do you want bread?" Yeah, you'll get lots of exposure though. That's how I thought of it too. And it doesn't matter what level you're coming in with. I was like, it's still another vocabulary. Like even Michael, you were saying like you're fluent, you're native, but you need to review like words that kids are going to be interested in. All the trucks, like I don't even know them in English or Polish actually. There's just different vocab. All the animals, whatever the kid decides to be interested in. And I will send you guys a ton of resources that have been good for us, like YouTube videos and songs and all sorts of things. And plus you have your sister and her and your nephew and her son. So I think you guys are really set up for success, and I'm just so excited.
We are too.
And I think it's so great that you're trying to learn Polish and you're open to this, and you're on the same page. You want the kid to be bilingual, because so often it's just, oh no, we're going to speak, in this case, English, because parent A or parent B doesn't speak the other language and doesn't want to be left out. And then the kid gets, left out of the heritage language. So I think it's good not to deprive the child of that.
That happened with my upbringing. My mother doesn't speak Portuguese, so I never learned it. And I guess I feel sad about it in a way. So, that's kind of why I'm trying to learn it a bit now, and why I'm, really excited about trying this and seeing what works, seeing what feels good. Like, we're just going to go with the flow with it. Nothing, too rigid, of course, in the early years, but
I think that's very wise, because you don't know what's going to happen. Every day is different, and you just gotta, you might have a good day, speak lots of Polish one day, and then have a bad day, or bad, quote unquote, but like a day where you don't say a word of Polish, and whatever, they're still going to learn it. It doesn't have to be perfect and 100% all the time. So at the end of the program, I always like to ask guests to teach us a word or phrase. So do you guys have a word or phrase? It can be, you guys have lots of languages. It could be Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, one of each.
Maybe we'll do one of each, or just a Polish word.
The more the better.
We'll see. You probably know a lot of Polish words already, but I'll definitely
for the listeners.
For the listener,
you can teach me a word I don't know. There's still lots of words I don't know.
I think. I already picked one that was mostly just from memory and everything, and that was the word wolność, which is freedom in Polish. Mostly just because we want to be able to like teach and like song and everything, and wolność was like a childhood, I guess, memory of a song that was like played when I was a child. So it's just something that we picture like learning and exposing like the child to Polish songs. Like
I love that song wolność. I think it's really cool. It always reminds me of like a party. Everyone dancing and having a good time. That song's playing.
I love disco polo, and lots of people don't, but I love it. We dance.
I do too.
Yeah, lots of people don't. It was definitely like when I grew up, it was like predominantly disco polo. Like that was the era, and I think it faded for a long time. But it actually recently like made a pretty big comeback. The last time I was in Poland.
Yeah. Well, there's still a channel. Like we have Polish TV, and there's disco polo channels, 24/7 disco polo, behind the scenes, like all sorts of.
Yeah, they still keep going.
Yeah, we actually have gone to 2 disco polo concerts in New Britain. Nice. That I mentioned earlier. They had artists from Poland come over a few years in a row and had these pretty fun concerts.
That's awesome.
It's like in a little rec hall.
Yeah, no, New Britain is the place to be for Polish immigrants and Polish language lovers like Carly and myself. And also you can now take, in a couple of years, hopefully, if concerts happen again, you guys can take your daughter. Yeah. My kids do know, you guys probably know this song, Ona lubi pomarańcze. Like she likes oranges. Yeah, my kids will sing that like all the time. And I'm like, oh gosh, if any person from Poland heard these American kids singing this song. But things to look forward to, teaching your kids random songs. Carly, do you have a word that you want to teach us?
I have been referring to my little menina a lot lately in my belly. Menina is the Portuguese word for little girl.
That's so cute. I love it. Well, we wish you guys all the best. And thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. It's just such a special moment. And I just wanted to talk to you guys before she makes her arrival, because you're going to be busy. And I think it's good for people to hear, because we're normally talking to parents and their kids are 10 or, 5, and they have all this experience. And I think it's such a different perspective when you're first expecting. And, I remember my kids are only 3 and 2. So it's just very different. The feeling, everything is new and exciting. Every day, I don't know if you have the apps, but like every day your baby is growing X amount and is the size of a whatever.
It's a pineapple. It seems so crazy.
Yeah. So I think it's great to share with our listeners, because I'm sure, I hope that there's people listening that maybe don't have kids yet and hope to have kids and maybe want to raise them bilingually. So I hope that your story can help them to kind of imagine the kinds of conversations they might be having. I don't know, things they can do, like take classes like you're doing. I just think, you guys are inspirational.
Yeah, exactly. I think, no matter what, it's going to be a fantastic thing to just try out and to do together. And I'm just looking forward to this being kind of a lifelong journey for our whole family.
Yeah, well, Polish grammar, for life. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's true.
You could only give her the basics, and then if she wants to learn more, then she could always learn more.
That's very true. We can't really force, and if we force, they're gonna push against us. So we can do our best for the first couple of years and hope that at least the foundation is there if they want to come back to it. I think that's very wise.
It's awesome having podcasts like yours, Heather, to use as a resource, especially for people in a position like ours. We don't really know too much about what to expect here, but listening to you and your guests talk about this topic just helps so much. Gives us a lot of great ideas. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
My pleasure. As you know, that's the whole premise, is that I'm over here not knowing what the heck I'm doing. So that's why I started the podcast. I was like, I need to talk to people who are doing this correctly, because
it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. And I wish you all the best, and we will be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Take care. That's all for my interview with Carly and Michał. Thank you for listening all the way through. I'm so thankful and grateful to them for agreeing to talk with me in this special moment of their lives, of their journey as a married couple and as soon-to-be parents. And I think it's really special to share that with all of you. And this podcast usually talks to parents who already have children. So I hope that you enjoyed this view from an earlier time before the children are born, of all the work that parents go through and all the discussions that they have about what they want for their children and how they're going to accomplish that. So I thank them both so much, and I hope that maybe it gave you some hope for something you want to do this year. If it's learning a new language, or maybe rekindling a language you used to learn, or whatever that is for you. I hope that this very optimistic and hopeful episode brought you some hope. And I just want to remind everybody that I have 2 surveys out. One is for all listeners. I'd like to know more about you guys, where you're listening in from, what types of episodes you would like to hear more of in this year. So you can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my Instagram profile. There's a link tree in there. The other survey is for anyone who would like to be a guest, so you can fill those out. If you know someone who would be a great guest, I would ask you to please send them the link so that they can fill out the survey themselves. And if you want to leave a rating and a review, I would be so grateful. It would help me grow the podcast and grow listenership. And as well, as I always say, if you'd like to share it on social media, that also helps to spread the word. And of course, good old word of mouth, telling your friends, sharing it with them, sending it through a text, anything you can do to spread the word and help other people know that there's a podcast about raising bilingual children. I would be so grateful. And make sure you tag me if you're sharing it on social media. The future is bilingual, no spaces. So that way I can see and I can thank you, and we can maybe strike up a conversation. So Thank you guys so much. Don't forget, you can always reach out at tfibpodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to reach out to me. And I just wish everybody a wonderful beginning of the new year. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.